Okay, so this is some things you need to look out for on your pre-inspection. Let's start with the conduit. Again, I mentioned in another video, you want to make sure that it's strapped to the wall every 10 feet. You want to make sure that it's a rigid conduit or a metal conduit or an EMT conduit on the exterior of the wall. Again, before it enters the first electrical gearbox, you want to make sure that it's strapped to the wall 3 feet before it enters that box. Another thing to look out for is if you have an aggregate panel, make sure that your breakers are labeled. They'll call you out on that. With your AC disconnect, depending on the way you've interconnected the system, you want to make sure that there's fuses if you used a hot tap method. No fuses if you used a backfed breaker method. You want to make sure that your wires are coming in the top of the PV meter. That's a mistake I've seen in the past, that the electrician will wire it in backwards. So make sure it's coming from the solar into the top. So if the electrician drills a hole into any of these gearboxes and doesn't use the knockouts that are provided on the lower sides and the bottoms, make sure that the fitting used is called a Myers hub, which has a rubber gasket that prevents water from getting into the gearbox. So that's a common point of failure. Make sure that everything's labeled appropriately. Here in Austin Energy's territory, they want the number of the house in these sort of stick-on numbers on the billing meter. They want PV on the PV meter. They want this sticker on the main panel indicating it's fed by 2 sources of energy. One is the grid coming in the top, one is solar. Make sure you've got your sticker on your photovoltaic system AC disconnect with the voltages, with the volt and the amps of the system. You can label your aggregate panel as well. Let's see what else. Make sure that any of these knockouts are not left open. That's one I've seen before, where maybe on an old panel like this there was a knockout that was open. It's our responsibility to come in and put what's called a knockout seal on it. You can't see any here, but you want to make sure that this meter is installed no more than, I believe, 72 inches high, which is no, excuse, I think it's 75. We need to look at the exact number, but this is borderline too high. I mean, it's close. I think this is 72, and I think maybe you get to 75, but we need to check that. So if you look to make sure the meters are installed at a normal height, if it seems high, measure it, and we'll check out the actual design criteria for how high this meter can be installed. Make sure that the working clearance in front of your equipment is 3 feet unobstructed. Like this is borderline not okay because it's in front of this box right here. So you want to make sure it's an unobstructed area in front of the electrical gear. Make sure that we don't make any modifications to this PV meter can. So you have to use the knockouts. You can't drill a hole into this like you can in these other gearboxes. Let's see. Make sure you got your lightning arrestor, which is this piece of equipment down here on the aggregate panel. And yeah, I think those are the main points.